credit union are nonprofit organizations that were imported to the United States from Germany in the early 1900s. They were regularly in 1934 by the Federal Credit Union Act, which limited members to groups have a common bonds of occupation or association group from particular. Credit unions are nonprofit organizations that were imported to the United States from Germany in the early 1900s. They were gradually in 1934 by the Federal Credit Union Act, which limits members to groups having a common bonds of occupations or association. Groups from the particular geographic area also have eligible to join credit union. There are two main types of market research. Qualitative research involves collecting a lot of information by using techniques such as questionnaires and other forms of survey. Qualitative research involves working with a smaller sample of consumers, often asking them to discuss products and services where researchers take notes about what they have to say. There are two main types of market research. Qualitative research involves collecting a lot of information by using techniques such as questionnaire and other forms of survey. Qualitative research involves working with smaller samples of consumers, often ask them to discuss products and services where researchers take notes about what they have to say. This course provides an introduction to the history and development of British legal system. Its aim is to describe the evolution of common law of England, the legal system of England, and the legal profession of England, and to introduce you to the study of the constitutions as law. This course provides an introduction, This course provides an introduction to the history and development of the British legal system. Its aim is to describe the evolution of the common laws of England, the legal system of England, and the legal profession of England, and to introduce you to the study of constitutions as law and to the legal aspects of constitutional system of government. Closure activities allowed participants to consolidate learning. Closure activities: say goodbye to group mates and attend to any unfinished business prior to the ending of the group experience. Generally, these activities involve some reflection upon what has been learned to accomplished during the preceding time together. Closure activities. Closure activities allowed participants to consolidate learning, say goodbye to group mates, and attend to unfinished business prior to the ending of the group experience. Generally, these activities involve some reflection upon what has been learned or accomplished during the preceding time together, and a sharing of these thoughts of insights with other participants.
I look forward to meeting you and to helping you realize your goals.
I am looking forward to meeting you and help you to meet your goals.
Read the fitness center instructions before attempting to use the equipment.
Read the fitness instructions prior to attempting to use the instructions.
The books are filled with drawings of machines he invented when he was a student.
The book filled with pictures and invented when he was a student.
Financial support can be offered to help pay your fees and other costs.
Financial offers can help you pay fees and other costs.
It is necessary to solve the equation to determine the unknown variable.
It is necessary to solve the notation to know the unknowable.
The book is informative, but it could be accused of political bias.
The book is formative, but is accused to formal bias.
During an official ceremony, a memorandum of understanding was signed by the academic dean.
Was signed by the academic dean.
Our tutorial will take place on the second floor in room 1.
Our tutorial will take place in the second floor in room 1.
The library offers group study rooms so you can work with other students.
The library offers a separate room so you can study with other students.
Proficiency in a foreign language may be demonstrated by assessment.
Proficiency in the language will demonstrate your understanding with your other language. The image is about topic of rainfalls and how interest can play an important role in society. According to the image, it mentioned that New York can be a major aspect that relates to modern society these days. So people must pay close attention to it. In addition, the image also indicates that dollars is important, but must not be overlooked because 22.02 may affect the average. In conclusion, the image shows that New York will continue to increase in the future. The image is about topic of truck and how houses play an important role in society. According to the image, it mentions that consumer can be a major aspect that relates to modern society these days. So people must pay close attention to it. In addition, the image also indicates that the importance of recycle must not be overlooked because retailer may affect trailer. In conclusion, the image shows that the houses will continue to increase in the future. The image is about the topic of how food waste and how UK play important role in society. According to the image, it mentions that the drink can be a major aspect that relates to modern society these days. So people must pay close attention to it. In addition, the image also indicates that the importance of companies must not be overlooked because houses may affect the companies. In addition, in conclusion, the image also shows that hospitality will continue to increase in the future. The image is about the topic of frog and how employee play important role in society. According to the image, it mentions that catport can be a major aspect that relates to modern society these days. So people must pay close attention to it. In addition, the image indicates that the importance of embryo must not be overlooked because the legs may affect the growing. In conclusion, the image shows that the legs will continue to increase in the future. The image is about the topic of students and how home can play important role in society. According to the image, that mentions that USA as a major aspect that relates to modern society these days. So people must pay close attention to it. In addition, the image also indicates that the importance of 2003 must not be overlooked because 3.4% may affect the percentage. In conclusion, the image shows that 1999 will continue to increase in the future. The image is about topic of students and how background can play important role in society. According to the image, it mentions that England can be a major aspect that relates to modern society these days. And so people must pay close attention to it. In addition, the image also indicates that the importance of backgrounds must not be overlooked because university may affect the percentage. In conclusion, 2014 will continue to increase in the future.
So let me begin with the notion of a dimension. The dimension is simply how many numbers that you need to specify a location. So if we think about the surface of the Earth, the equator is one-dimensional. You need to specify only one number to specify a location on the equator, namely the longitude. The surface of the Earth altogether is, of course, two-dimensional. You need to specify two numbers, the latitude and longitude, to specify a location on the Earth. The space above the Earth is three-dimensional. If I want to tell you the location of a hang glider, I need to give you the latitude, longitude, and altitude. But mathematically, there's no reason to stop at 3 dimensions. A 4-dimensional space is simply a space in which you need to specify 4 numbers to specify a location in that space. A 5-dimensional space would be one in which you need to specify 5 numbers, etc. In fact, I claim you already know an example of a 4-dimensional space. So let's define an event just to be an occurrence that happens in a small region of space at a definite time. In other words, an event is like a snap of your fingers or a clap of your hands. And now the collection of all events, if I want to specify an event, I need to give you 4 numbers. I need to tell you where it happens in space and when it happens in time.
The lecture is about the topic of dimension and how location can play an important role in society. According to the lecture, it mentions that number can be a major aspect that relates to modern society these days. So people must pay close attention to it. In addition, the lecture also indicates that the importance of Earth must not be overlooked because altitude may affect regions. In conclusion, the lecture also shows that dimension will continue to increase in the future.
The first results on the Welsh language were reported in March 2003. The census found that there were 576,000 Welsh speakers aged 3 and over, or 21% of the population, which represents a 2% increase since 1991. The proportion of people in Wales aged 3 and over who can speak, read and write Welsh increased from 13.6% to 16.3% over the period 1991 to 2001. A further 138,000, or 5% of the population, said they understood Welsh but did not speak it. In addition, 84,000 gave a combination of positive responses that was imprecise, making it difficult to work out whether they could understand, speak, read or write Welsh. The growth in the number of Welsh speakers has occurred largely in the south and east of the country.
The lecture is about the topic of speaking and how result can play an important role in society. According to the lecture, it mentioned that 2003 can be a major aspect that relates to modern society these days, so people must pay close attention to it. In addition, the lecture also indicates that the importance of March must not be overlooked because 21% may affect the proportion. In conclusion, the lecture also shows that 16% will continue to increase in the future.
The most visible manifestation of this wealth was a series of grand projects that were begun by Napoleon III, mainly in Paris, soon after he came to power in the 1850s. He said, "I want to be a second Augustus," making reference to the Emperor Augustus's claim that he'd found Rome a city of brick and left it one of marble. In the case of Napoleon III, he found Paris in 1851 a city of cobblestones and twisting medieval streets, and he left it one of asphalt and macadam, because what he began doing was bulldozing old Paris, the ancient medieval part of Paris, and replacing it with wide new boulevards, 85 miles of them, that he lit with some 20,000 gas lamps, which he took out all the old 18th century oil lamps, replaced them with gas, which gave a much cleaner, brighter, regular light. Also 50,000 trees are planted alongside them, many of them the chestnut trees that we now think of as synonymous with Paris. And he drained the streets with 200 miles of sewers, these new famous Parisian sewers beneath the streets, thereby making the city a much more safer, pleasant place to wander, to stroll, to people watch, to have coffee or absinthe in the cafes.
The lecture is about topic of project and how reference can play an important role in society. According to the lecture, it mentions that Britain can be a major aspect that relates to modern society these days, so people must pay close attention to it. In addition, the lecture also indicates that the importance of streets must not be overlooked because lights may affect the chestnut trees. In conclusion, the image shows that the city will continue to increase in the future.
How many years are in a decade?
10.
What do you use to identify yourself when you arrive in a foreign country?
Passport.
What do you press when you arrive at someone's front door?
Doorbell.
In which academic field do people study things that happened in the past?
Historicology. Archaeology.
What is the occupational title for the composer of a novel?
A novelist.
What do you call a person who is receiving care in a hospital?
Patient.
The terms circumference, diameter, and radius refer most commonly to which geometric shape?
North.
What do you call a person who trains a team of athletes?
Coach.
To find a detailed topographical map of Africa, what kind of reference book would be best to use?
Map.
What is the term for an extended speech by one person in a play?
Solar. Charlie， 만나게 인사해 하지 마. Charlie. Good, how are you? Oh, just doing a test at home, a mock test.
Can you do us a favor to order the book, please?
Oh, yes, I can.
If you haven't ordered for a couple of days, the last 2 days of the sun, they're going to be pretty thirsty.
Yeah, I didn't water yesterday, but before day before that I did. But I'm going to water after I finish. All right.
So I'm going to come out early, babe, if the weather's too good.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
All right, so.
Bye. Students at the University of have recognized Within Up a Storm of eco-friendly smoothie. This comes as part of a week of event aimed at the promoting environmental a range of events and activities were recognized by the university environment team and students. Students were rescued food from in many areas of expertise, range from music, a young child struggle at a music instrument without It's widely believed that the likelihood according to more than the judgment that someone is academic writing addresses complexity issues. To comprehend. Think of your writing think of your writing this way. That is understandable and relatable to the topic being often to as higher order thinking skills. This is also one of the main functions of as a writer, you must take forces of globalization have acted on education internationally, creating greater standardization in norms of teaching and learning. This has always been considered pattern of teaching and learning. Likewise, school building in terms of their recently, globalization has created increased opportunity for borrowing education policy and practice, and has the internationalization of education been more apparent than the higher education sector? the move to international education policy practice. Imagine a time in the not too distant future when your power comes from a seamless mix of renewable energy and traditional sources. It is delivered by a grid, computer controlled, for more complex than any of. When introduced, smart grid will result in energy saving and will allow the consumer a choice in their electricity change and be able to select the cheapest time slots. The difficulty for the energy industry is that smart grids in the reality without an actual grid to conduct research on. Professor Wu has designed this. For an authentic approach, research built various types of equipment failures, the grid to test the system. In which way was China similar to early Roman Empire? He was a constant protector. Others want the opportunity to experience living in the different parts of the country. Some students value the experience of living in a halls of residence or in shared accommodation as an important part of university. However, moving away to study is still a popular choice. Difficult. Difficult. Living at home where study has been the practical in many countries for a long time. Maybe for a long time. By stay at home, you can often save money by stay at home. So E follows D. By stay at home, living at home, by stay at home, you can often save some money to rent and this, while still making new friends. However, move away to study is still a popular choice. Some people view the experience of living home, others won't. Okay, living at home where study is this. By stay at home is this. However, moving away to study, some students is like this. Others want to have the opportunity this. Living at home where studies, by staying at home, you can often save money. However, move away is still some student valued. Next. This article outlines the engagement framework that as a holistic approach to facilitate effective student engagement. But how do students new to university education learn how to engage how do students new to university education learn how to engage efficiently? But how do students learn to university education learn how to engage? Student retention is a key concern in tertiary education. Enable programming with research showing that enabling programs with research showing that early engagement early engagement. This framework, where's the frame? So A 后面是 D。所以 D 是 D， This framework was developed from quality data from students enrolled in this program at Southern Australia. This outlined and then student but how students are new to university. But got a glimpse from student enrolled this program. So this article, and then this framework, and then students, but how do student university and then become this. It's difficult to understand underestimate the effective the success importance. Modern human resource management function within organization. Difficult to 估计。The importance of the effectiveness. Function within organization, an employee who retired from 20 years ago will not the competence who would not you can to move your function out of the dark days. You can choose to move and into the importance. International Women's Day has been celebrated across the world since originally it was to 它的名词 was to provide a forum. 它的 aim was to for women to equal to recognize. But over time, it has evolved, and now in March each year, thousands of through the world to inspire women and to celebrate their achievements. To agree the progress is rock gardening with pine plants originally in England in the early 1900s, but rocks and stones being used as elements can be tracked back to, but the use being used as creating elements. As decorative elements, traditionally a plant were used one rock gardens when creating rock gardens. These plants are native to this and grow above the tree a tree line. They have adapted to harsh conditions and a short of growing season. Management accounting is concerned with providing information and someone to manage, help them plan. Management accounting is concerned with providing information and to managers, help them plan, evaluate, and control activity in order to achieve the organizations. In order to achieve M organizations, tips to achieve an organization's future. Accounting, management accounting is central concerned with improving its performance facilities. Future performance. In order to understand the concepts and principle, it's necessary first to have some some appreciations of word management. Scientists have estimated how old sharks are being slicing through their spines and counting the pair of bones bands seen inside, which are often assumed to show age in some way as the rings of the tree. But a growing number of cases are suggesting that method can be problematic. For example, show that some tiger sharks, which were thought to live for around 2 decades, can actually survive for up to twice that. Found that New Zealand have been underaged by. What is the main idea of this? Scientists have begun to estimate the age of both sharks and trees in the same way. The lifespan of 2 shark species have serious miscalculation. What is the main idea of this article? This has been a decade of artificial intelligence with one astonishing feat that after another. True, these accomplishments are all in
For many people, language acquisition starts at around about 12 months when kids say their first word, but don't forget the first year. That first year of life is very important as well, and indeed before you're born, remember there are a couple of months before you're born when you're actually able to perceive in the womb something of the language that's around you. So language acquisition starts earlier than most people think. And it also ends later than most people think. When does child language acquisition stop? Well, in a sense, you know, we're all children. We stay being children all our lives. There's no obvious end point. For learning sounds, of course, there is, and for learning grammar, there is, but vocabulary, I mean, that goes on for the rest of our lives. 1 million or more words in English, and most of us only have a vocabulary of 50, 60, 70,000 words or whatever it is. And so there's always something more to learn. So remember that the two ends of child language acquisition are wider apart than some people think. And that means there's more scope for studying it than most people think.
The topic we're going to focus on is the population challenge for the 21st century. Now, what is that challenge?
Well, I think what is interesting about population is that at the end of the 20th century, we saw tremendous changes which are going to follow through over the 21st century. And basically, our population is changing in size. It's growing very rapidly. We currently have about 7 billion people on the planet. That has probably doubled in the lifetime of most adults in this country. It is going to increase, we think, to around about 10 billion, and then it'll probably flatten out. It's changing in its density. We're all becoming far more urban. Currently, we have about half the world's population living in an urban area. That will increase to 75% by the middle of the century and to about 80 to 90% by the end of the century, when nearly everyone on the planet will be living in an urban area. Distribution of population is changing. We're becoming mobile in a different way. Traditional migration patterns are changing. Who migrates is changing, where they migrate. And probably, I think, one of the greatest challenges is a massive change in the age structure of the population, in so much as across the world, women are having less children, and as a consequence, as we're also living longer, the age composition of our population is changing. So, for example, by the middle of the century, for the very first time, there will be as many old people as there are young people on this planet.
I guess the most interesting thing that I can bring to the table here today is the fact that we are considering at Warwick the idea of general education for all incoming undergraduate students. Now, for those of you who aren't from the United States, it's quite common in the United States for students to only major after their second of a 4-year undergraduate degree. And so they have the first year or two actually to sample many different courses across the curriculum. And this is called general education. This is not very common, not in this country nor in Europe, where in fact students come in specialized. Right? They already come in with a subject that they've chosen. The idea behind having general education now is basically because whatever specialist kind of subject that you're trained in is unlikely to be a source of a lifelong career in any sense of the word, no matter what the subject is.
There's always a choice on exams that I give, and I tell my students that when you're writing an exam, remember the following. 1, answer the question. You'd be surprised how often people don't answer the question. They have some things they'd like to talk about, so they talk about that. But think of the poor examiner. He or she thought so hard to try to make a nice question, and their feelings are hurt if you don't answer the question. It's not good to hurt the examiner's feelings. Okay, now the second thing is when you ask the question, know your stuff. You should be fully in charge of the material in lectures and reading. And then third, it's helpful if you think for yourself. If the exam is intelligently designed, you should have some opportunity to exercise your critical abilities. And fourth, it is immensely helpful if you can write coherent English.
So palm oil is the most widely produced oil crop currently. It's used in a wide range of industries, including food, for biofuels, and in soaps and shampoos. However, the sector's growing fast, and unfortunately, palm oil grows in exactly the same environment as tropical rainforest. So the use and the development of palm oil, the growth in the sector, is leading to wide-scale deforestation. What we're hoping to do is if we can come up with an alternative, we can slow the growth of this sector and therefore stop the wide-scale deforestation in Southeast Asia.
The earlier chocolate was quite unpalatable. It was
They used to add things to it to make it more palatable. So the early chocolate, they didn't know how to extract all the cocoa fat from it, so it could be quite greasy. And if you made it as a drink, you'd have this sort of scum on the top. So they used to try and add things to it, like starch and things, to make it a more palatable product. So there are a lot of scandals around the kind of things they were adding to chocolate in the 19th century. So that by the sort of 1870s, 80s, there are people like Cadbury saying, "No, our chocolate is absolutely pure. We have this new process, the Van Houten process, which now extracts all this horrible fat, and we can use that to make eating chocolate, and now we have a pure product."
Speaker traveled to an island in a warm climate to search monkey behavior.
Yeah, so I actually got interested in non-human animals by actually hanging out with them. As a college student, I had the opportunity to actually do some research with monkeys, and that actually brought me down to a very nice, warm Caribbean island where I got to hang out with a bunch of monkeys for the first time. And I think I can remember the moment when I first got interested, not just in their cognition, but particularly in their emotion, when I was hanging out on a beach that I was finding really beautiful, and it was warm and there was a breeze. And I noticed there was a monkey sitting right beside me who was like looking out into the water and seemed to be experiencing exactly the same things I was. And it just caused me to think, like, what does he know about the world? What does he know about the scene? Is he enjoying it? Does he find this beautiful? And it was kind of a fascinating moment because I realized that, you know, we now have these cool tools in cognitive science where we can answer some of these big questions. Whether you have a pet dog or a cat or even a goldfish, right? You can't help but wonder what they're experiencing and if they experience some of the same things that you do.
Only can computer accomplish some tasks that are difficult for
Computers have always been good at doing things that are really complicated for us humans. Things like crunching insanely large numbers and running complex algorithms. On the other hand, computers have a really hard time recognizing a particular voice or face in a crowd, something most kids learn to do before they're even out of diapers. But things are changing fast. Over the next decade or so, machines will more easily mimic inherently human abilities. And they'll learn to do it much the same way we do, through experience. Experience, in this case, means computers will be fed data patterns over and over again until they're able to automatically identify a particular sound or image on their own. This process is called machine learning.
Human and computer are very much alike. Both are able to solve. Experience is a key learning for both computers. Whereas humans are able to learn things quite quickly at an early age, computers are unable to learn this way, as they must rely on high specialized software to learn efficiently. Computers have a difficulty accomplishing some basic skills that humans are able to perform at a young age. This will change in the future. However, became capable of learning in a similar way through pattern recognition and pattern.
First, on this issue of media, on using phones and laptops, we're kind of having some backsliding. I got a few emails from people who said that the person next to them was on Facebook or using their computers or anything, and they were really annoyed by it. So remember the rule. There are 1 or 2 people here who sought permission to take notes on a laptop for various reasons. But aside from that, unless you had express permission, no phones, no laptops during class, okay? It's just not courteous to our guests, and it's harder to multitask than you think.
Which of the following reasons?
Okay, well, I want to talk to you today about introversion and extroversion, which I have come to believe are as profound a part of our identities as our gender. And that therefore it's extremely important to know where we fall on the introvert-extrovert spectrum. And when I say this, I'm not talking about where do you appear to fall. Because in this extroverted culture of ours, we all tend to act a lot more extroverted than we really are, right? So I'm talking about who are you really if you could spend your time exactly as you please, your work days, your weekends. Would you be more of an introvert or would you be more of an extrovert?
We are here recording about the meaning of
Nick?
Yeah, it's definitely something around balance. That's really what it comes down to, a more balanced way of living, and balance being that it's in balance with the environment. And the reason why we're living an unsustainable life at the moment is that our consumption patterns, be it energy, be it products, be it food, are completely outstripping the world's ability to support us. So that's why it needs
we've started to have a dialogue with technology. And so this is where the realms of science fiction, I suppose, can come in, is because in the future, there may be a chance of actually having quite natural interactions with computers sort of vocally. Now, part of that is, and some of the research I do, is understanding the psycholinguistics of that. So understanding how what we can learn from human-human dialogue and looking at the phenomena in human-human dialogue and how we can apply that to human-computer dialogue and how design actually augments and changes that phenomena. So an example would be that we don't tend to, in natural speech, we tend to align with each other. We tend to use the same words. If I was describing a bus, for instance, if you use the term coach, I would use the term coach as well. So that's called lexical alignment. Now we seem to be doing this we do this with computers as well, but the design of them actually changes the way that we do that. So the fact that we think a computer is sort of maybe basic at understanding us changes the way we behave vocally. And so this is interesting because it gives us a window on how people
if there is a simple piece of social.
If there's a single piece of social science research that's really inspired you, what would it be?
I think it was a book that Richard, my co-author, wrote and published in 1996. And it came out when I was a PhD student at the University of Berkeley. And it was called Unhealthy Societies. And we used to fight over it in the library because we couldn't afford books. And somebody would take it out and then, we'd immediately put in a request to get it back. So people only had it for a very short time. But that was a book about inequality and about health, but a very, very rich text with lots of examples.
Cooking is such an amazing way to learn about science. Many of us.
Cooking is such an amazing way to learn about science. Many of us cook every day, but when you start to think about why the recipes work, why is it that when you knead bread it has this remarkable texture, or why is it that candy recipes work as they do, or how is it that you cook eggs in a way that it comes out to be perfect, you immediately are led to thinking about basic principles in science.
You will need to read Chapter 1 before the management class.
The seminar provides an opportunity to exchange ideas with other students.
Accountancy students need a good understanding of profit and loss statements.